To be notified of videos from this channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon.
The bike can fly. Alright, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Savant Life. This is yet another brand new episode, and yes, finally I've got my hands on the TVS Apache RR310, or as I like to call it, the TVS Aquila. I have to say, I've been riding this bike only for about 5 seconds now, and it feels massive. It is huge, both in terms of its look and also in terms of its feel. Having ridden a KTM RC390 multiple times, I can tell you that that bike has a much lighter feel to it. It looks more like a stripped down version that is just designed to make sure that you live up to your racing fantasies. Whereas this bike is a much more well-rounded machine. Those mirrors, I have to say, when I made the turn, serve a great purpose. On a lot of bikes these days, you see that the mirrors are pretty much useless. They're mostly for aesthetics, but over here, I'm sure you can see what a great view you're getting of the road behind you. The one that I have is in the racing black color. Of course, as you might know by now, the bike comes only in two colors, the racing black and the racing red. I actually prefer the racing red, but sometimes you've got to make do with what you get, and that is what we're doing right now. Oh wow, look at this guy. Oh man, this bike can go. You're not playing around with this. I know that a lot of people make the mistake of comparing it directly to the RC390, which I don't think is the most fair comparison, because I understand that both of these bikes are in the same category, but they're designed for two different purposes. The RC390 is more of a track-oriented machine. It's got a very aggressive stance. It's built in a very stripped-down manner in order to make sure that it can live up to the hype of being a very, very aggressive, performance-oriented machine. Whereas the Apache RR310 is actually a best of the both worlds kind of scenario. It is something that you can use on the track, but at the same time, it's also a little bit of a sporting tourer, which you can take out on highways without really breaking your back. So think of it, wow. I've got to stop talking when I'm letting the bike go like that. But I would say think of this bike as a combination between the Honda CBR 250 and the KTM RC390. It's not as fast as the RC390, and its engine is not as refined as the CBR 250R, but it's somewhere in between, and that's actually not a bad deal. Now, coming to the specifications of this bike itself, this has a 313cc single-cylinder 4-valve liquid-cooled engine which can produce 33 bhp of power and 27.3 newton meters of torque, which is plenty from whatever little riding I've done so far. Even though the numbers might not seem as great on paper, I can guarantee you that when you're riding it, they more than live up to your expectations. Also, the riding posture on this bike, I think, is quite comfortable. It's not as comfortable as I thought, considering what a lot of people had said. I think the riding posture on the CBR 250R is actually a little more comfortable than this. But again, if you compare it with the RC390, I think it's definitely way more comfortable. The gears shift quite smoothly. You don't get any sense of missing any gears or finding a false neutral. And that is because TVS has worked on a technology that is called the reverse brake rack technology or something of that kind. I don't know what the hell it is supposed to be, but I can tell you that it works. As you can see, the bike has this gorgeous fuel tank which looks humongous, but don't get fooled by the looks. Like they say, don't judge a book by its cover, because it has only 11-liter fuel tank capacity, which might be a little bit of a concern, especially if you're treating this bike as a sports tourer. But then again, it's supposed to be giving you a mileage of about 30 kilometers within the city, which I'm guessing would be definitely more on the highways. So I still think that you can use it for your touring purposes without too many hassles. The pickup of the bike is great, and when it's idle, I don't really like the sound of it too much, but when you start revving it, seriously, I love the grunt that the Apache RR310 has about it. You want to hear it again? Oh my god, And the bike is a little bit of a brute again. Make no mistake about it, because when you rev the bike really hard and it takes off, you better clutch your feet right against the tank, or else you're probably going to fly off the bike. And it's a heavy bike. It's definitely a heavy bike. I think it weighs in at about 169 kgs, but for some reason it feels a little heavier to me, so take that for what it's worth. Also, I can't really say much about the heating issues of the bike, but what I can tell you is that TVS has these gill vents on the side which are supposed to direct the air away from the rider. As a result, you don't get your legs fried as you probably would with a Duke 390 or with a KTM RC 390 as well, which is always a pleasant relief. This vertical console, though, it is very unique. It has a stylish build to it, and it's also packed with oodles and oodles of features, which I shall talk about a little later on. Let's check out the turning radius on the bike here. The turning radius is quite good. Let's do a little bit of a speed run. Yes, there's so much of fun just waiting to be had with this bike. I just wish that I had open highways in front of me so that I could really put it to the test, but again, within city conditions, you have to ride as responsibly as you can. The braking, I have to say, again, is very sure-footed. Of course, this comes with dual-channel ABS, which, by the way, cannot be switched off. Braking duties are handled by a 300mm disc at the front and a 240mm disc at the back. The suspension, I think, is a little on the softer side, especially considering that TVS had marketed this bike as a very racing-heavy track tool, which, you know, I mean, it's nice to market it that way and all, but this is not a racetrack-oriented bike for sure. But it handles pretty well in city traffic and on highways also, I'm assuming. But again, at the same time, don't expect to do 30-40 kilometers in Bangalore traffic on this bike and not feel the after effects, because again, the riding position is a little better relatively compared to the RC 390, but this is not a naked sports bike. This is not something like the Gixxer or the KTM Duke or the Yamaha FZ25. You're going to feel the effects of riding this bike for long times, even inside the city. I'm feeling it right now, in fact, as I'm maneuvering it through the city traffic. Let's hit a U-turn here. The bike can fly. It's more than enough power that you need inside the city, and you've got to ride this bike very, very responsibly, or else it can get out of your hand very quickly. The RC 390, I think, is much better at handling, whereas over here you need to really put a lot of effort in, and if you're especially on the skinnier side like me, I think it is going to tire you out a little bit. Not if you ride the bike for about 20 minutes or half an hour, but anything more than that inside city traffic, I think, could be a bit of a challenge. And again, it's not very easy to filter. As you can see, I'm kind of trying, but the flickability on this bike, again, not as great as I would have expected. Maybe I'm comparing it, again, like I said myself, one should not be comparing this bike to the RC 390, but I myself am actually committing that cardinal sin. However, that bike is a much lighter bike, especially if you compare it to the previous generation KTM RC 390, which was light as a feather and very, very easy to flick around. You don't have that luxury with this particular bike. But overall, I think TVS has done a phenomenal job in terms of creating a top-of-the-line premium bike, which basically looks like a middleweight. It easily can pass off as a 600cc bike if you just look at it, and that is a tremendous job by TVS. The only thing that I don't really like is the hollow space over here, but apart from that, the fit and finish, the build quality, the clip-on handlebars, the texture of the seats, everything is just top-notch. TVS has priced it at about 2.6 lakhs on road in Bangalore, which I feel, even for all of the quality that the bike is providing, is a bit on the expensive side. And it is not going to be a KTM killer for sure, because both of those bikes have very, very different markets. However, I think it's a bike that can very easily carve out a cult following for itself, just like the Apache did back in the day, and maybe that's the reason why TVS decided to name this bike Apache as well instead of the Akula. Overall, I'm impressed by this bike. I don't know if I would buy it necessarily myself because I think it's a little too bulky for me and would be a little difficult to handle in day-to-day traffic over the long run, but I think it definitely will have its stickers. It's a very stylish looking bike, and looks are a very important part of a bike after all, so it has that going for it. It has the TVS name, and it has a price tag that is not very attractive, but at the same time it's not overtly priced either for something of this nature. Again, hats off to TVS for being one of the first Indian bike manufacturers to come out with a bike of this quality. They took their own sweet time with it, but boy did they deliver. Alright guys, that is about it for me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off with a quick look around for you guys of the bike. But if this is your first time around at the Savant Life, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, also click on the bell icon so that you can be notified when I put out more new videos. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care, ride safe, be good, have fun. Boom. Alright guys, so here's a quick look around of the bike. The tank looks absolutely spectacular. You can see the TVS logo over there. They've not really put in the letters, but they've put in the horse, which is I guess their signage. You've got the RR310 badge over here. The handlebars are really well done. You've got the vertical console, which is loaded with features. It even has a lap time indicator, it has a gear indicator, it has a fuel gauge, low oil, low battery. It tells you all of that, and it has a lot more features to pack as well. Over here on the left hand side you can see the Indian flag colors, which I think is a really cool touch by TVS. And of course these are the gill vents that I was talking about, which directs the air away from the legs of the riders. You have the trellis frame, which is borrowed from the BMW G310, but it's been modified in order to suit this particular bike. I think there's a really nice touch. It goes well with the whole black and red combination as well, and TVS has made sure that they know that they let everybody know of the 35 years that they have been in the racing game. The seats as well, the split seat design is really nice and quite premium. So that is a quick look around of the bike. I hope you enjoyed this video once again, and I will see you in the next one.